Thank you for coming to our 5-year panel. I'm Joe Foley. I'm class of 2004, and I'm going to moderate this panel. Today we have Jeff Handler from GMR, Jim Harris from Indiana University, Jennifer Surgalski from the Miami Dolphins, Chad Swofford from Raycom Sports. Did I do that right? Okay. Lori Ruane from the NCAA. We're going to start off. We're going to just go right down the line. We're going to ask you, should kind of roll into this nice and easily. Jeff, what was the best thing you got out of Ohio University?
I think we might need to categorize that. I think what you're looking for, like as far as the program and the experience. All right. I think honestly, the first thing that I would say is, like, this is the canned answer, but the relationships obviously that you get here. I mean, you can see how excited we are to be hanging out, and most of us have stayed in pretty good touch over the years. I know in Charlotte, we call it OU Charlotte. There's a lot of grads that live in town there, and we're all still pretty good friends. So that's probably the first thing. But I'll stick with that and let you guys go into some other stuff.
Well, I would say mine's kind of a spin-off of that in a way. The relationship side of it is huge, but so much of the work you guys do in the MBA program and the Sports Ab program is working in groups and getting to know people and mixing different types of people together, and you have to be able to get along with them and divide the work and that type of thing. And that's exactly in what I do day to day. That's exactly how it is. I mean, it prepares you for what you face every day. My job consists specifically of going out and meeting different people that have different professions. They own their own businesses. All different walks of life. They've made money in different ways, and you got to be able to relate to them. You got to get them to like you, get them to trust you. So that's a huge part of it. Outside of the academics, it's literally how you interact with people and how you work together as a team, and different aspects like that.
That's a good one. Tough act to follow. I would say it is the best thing that happened for me was opening doors, and I'm sure you've all heard the talk about the alumni network and how helpful that is, and it's very true. But there have been so many doors opened by the reputation of the program, the alumni who have kind of reached out to help us as we all started our career, and then it's really up to us and to each of us what we do from there once those doors are open for us.
If I had been asked this first, if I was first in line down there, I would have said the exact same thing that Jeff said. I was trying to think of something else I could come up with, but the honest answer is absolutely the relationships, and more than that, the friendships. I think there's 6 or 7 people in this room that will be very, very close to me for a very long time. So, you can say whatever you want, but ultimately that's more important than anything else. So, a little bit cliched, but that's the truth.
This is a hard chair to sit in because I am the last one to talk.
Lori, we can swap halfway through if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. That's an agreement. Just in regards to what Jeff said is relationships, but also just roles, different roles that you play. Sometimes you'll play a leader. Sometimes you'll play, a support to a certain project. I think learning your just versatile skills and what you can do. But again, I can't say much more than building relationships and learning about people and how you interact with them and what are your strong points and what are your weak points, and working on your weak points.
If you could go back 5 years or 6 years or 7 years, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently as a graduate student? Jennifer, let's start with you.
Thanks for calling out the girl in the middle. I think I would focus less on having the ideal job and more about preparing myself to eventually have the ideal job. And what I mean by that, I've been very lucky that it's come to fruition, but as all my classmates know, I always wanted to work in the NFL and sponsorships, and I was so focused on that as kind of a destination that I finally made it. I finally achieved what I wanted. But I think what's more important is along the way making sure that you're preparing yourself for that, because now I'm doing it 5 years in, and you've got to figure out kind of what's next and how do you continue to stretch those goals. So focusing on the skills that you need along the way to eventually be successful in that job is just as important as actually getting the job itself. You hear people say it's the journey, not the destination, and that really is true, and trying to make the most of it.
Lori?
Just in regards to, I was one of those people where I just should have stayed in touch a little bit better in regards to my journey along the way, and talking to them and continuously asking for guidance and feedback in regards to just some of the things that I came across throughout my career. I found kind of late along the way that people are people, and they will listen to you, and they will give you as much guidance and feedback as they possibly can. And getting it from multiple, people in walks of life is one of those things where you're dealing with somebody different every single day, and it's one of those things where I wish I would have done that a little bit more, ask for more feedback along the way.
Jim?
Yeah, I think what I would have done a little bit different, I probably would have broadened my horizons a little bit more than I did. I was so focused, and it worked out for me because I was so focused on working in development. I knew it's what I wanted to do. I had experience before I came here in doing that, and I got the GA for development here. It's just, that was my focus. So I didn't really, in networking through the directory and things like that, again, my focus was college athletic directors, development officers, that type of thing. So I never really let myself get exposed to the more professional side or corporate side or things like that. And I think it did work out for me in the end, and I'm doing what I want to do. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have been able to experience some of those other things in those other areas as well. So even if you think you know what you want to do, it's always nice to be able to branch out and do a few other things along the way.
Now, the two of you have been in your jobs for 4.5, 5 years each. Jennifer, Chad, and Laura, you've had a couple different jobs along the way. Let's start in this half and talk a little bit about how you've been able to grow within an organization, and then we'll compare that to the other half of the panel and their experiences and how they were able to move up by jumping in.
I think, anytime you start in a new situation, whether it's here at school or, in a job, you're looking to prove yourself as fast as you can and let everybody know what you can do. And so that's obviously a bit of a challenge right off the bat. I think probably everybody in this room at some point was doing something in a job or in a class or in a group setting that they felt like, maybe you could be doing a lot more or you're doing things that maybe are below you, so to speak. But, when you're first getting started, you're so eager to prove yourself that maybe you don't take full advantage of exactly what you're working on and making the most of everything. You're just trying to skip ahead to where you want to be. So I think really trying to focus on that part of it, on making the most of every opportunity, even if it's not your dream job right off the bat, or if it's not the dream situation, or if you're not exactly where you want to be, taking like each step and trying to learn what you want to learn from that situation. And then I think the other piece is that if you're doing something in your role that if most of your role comprises of things that maybe don't make you as excited, then use the other time to make yourself better. So look at things and say, I want to learn more about X, and start doing that in your spare time. So instead of, going to another movie or doing whatever you want to do, then in your spare time, you start looking at, all right, I want to learn more about this side of the industry, and you start doing it, and then that's going to show in your work as you move forward.
Yeah, I would say, again, I did my undergrad in Indiana, and I worked in the development office as a student worker and things like that. So I had a prior relationship with the people that ended up hiring me, and I have been there from the start. But one of the things that was beneficial for me was when I worked there as a student worker in undergrad. I was literally the peon that just did the filing and the faxing and things like that. But even when you're doing that kind of work, if you make the most of it, you make the best of it, you still work hard, even though it's not the most fun, it's not it doesn't take the most brain power to do that type of work. I got noticed, by a guy that has, at the time had my job that I have now. And, it's just, again, I go back to the relationships and the networking. It's just when you're in a certain role, make sure you're doing it, going all out, and don't kind of half-ass it, don't take that route, because when I was coming out of school, the 2 years I was here, that guy that had my position that I'm in now had been moved to director, and he contacted me to see if I'd be interested in coming back, and it was only because of that time that I was a student worker over there. And so, I did something to make him notice me during that time. So, just take that route in anything you do. And, since I've been back there, again, I had the prior relationship with him, so I was comfortable with the people, and, you do the quality work, you're going to get noticed no matter what the position is. So.
Do you guys feel an extra sense of loyalty to your particular employer, or your particular, your boss as opposed to your organization, or the organization as opposed to the boss?
I think if you don't, you're probably in the wrong place.
But my question is, do you feel more of a loyalty to the people in the organization, or the organization and the people?
I think that's actually a really good question, Joe, because my boss always says to me, don't feel like you owe me anything. Because he is the sole reason that I'm working there. But again, because I worked with him when I was an undergrad, and he